Well, good morning, everybody. It is Monday, April 8th, and yes, there is an eclipse happening later on today, and I'm sure you'll see dozens and dozens of hours of coverage of all of that throughout the day. But this particular show today, we'll touch on it at the beginning, but we're not here to talk about astronomy or the sun, but we're here to talk about pickup lines presented by Gamez Law Firm and Integrity Roofing and Siding. Today's episode is presented by Triumph Public High Schools. Their website is triumphpublicschools.org, and I just so happen to have one of their instructors here, Bobby Quintero, who, I don't know if I've had a guest do this before. You drove all the way from the valley up
correct.
Here to San Antonio just to be with me today.
Correct. Yeah, I drove in last night.
Well, I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, and you might notice here in the bottom of the screen, if you're thinking, is that a welding mask?
Yeah.
The correct answer is yes, it is. It is a welding mask. So, by your career, by trade, you are a welding instructor.
Yes, sir. I have over roughly around 10 years of experience in the industry. I started in the industry when I was around between 20 and 21 years old. I came out as a welding inspector. I'm actually an ASNT level 2 technician in magnetic particle and ultrasound testing. But while I was doing all of that, I became a certified welder, got my associate's degree in welding, and in 2021, I started with Triumph, and I started a welding program with it. Yeah.
So we're here actually parked right off of Fredericksburg Road here in San Antonio, and it might be difficult to see, but directly behind us is part of the campus that is just opening up and here in San Antonio, because I guess for context, you live in the valley. You live in Sherryland.
Yes.
And you teach welding and you work primarily down there.
Yeah, so I'm the welding instructor for the RGV district for Triumph. Triumph has 4 schools in the RGV, McAllen, Mercedes, San Benito, and Brownsville, and I teach at all 4. Okay. So I travel throughout the week. Certain weeks I'm in Cameron County covering San Benito and Brownsville, and other weeks I'm with Mercedes and McAllen in Hidalgo County.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we are trying to expand the program going into the other districts. We have other districts in Laredo, El Paso, Lubbock, and here in San Antonio. So we're trying to open the doors to try to get welding hands-on here, because unfortunately it's only in the RGV that we have hands-on work. But nonetheless, we're trying to expand the program, make it bigger, so that we can have these hands-on courses here, like in San Antonio and all our other districts.
Yeah. So this episode today is part of a series of episodes that I've been doing with Triumph Public High Schools, and you see their great logo back there. Yeah. And the idea is just to shed some light on what's happening in the expansion plans, because Triumph is headquartered here in San Antonio, but as you mentioned, there's campuses scattered all over the state. Mm-hmm. We had their superintendent here in the car with me not too long ago, and we're just learning a lot about. And some people might be saying, well, welding. Well, what's the big deal? First of all, April is National Welding Month, which I learned, and it can be a very rewarding, a very lucrative career with some great job security as automation and AI and things take over. Mm-hmm. It sounds like for the foreseeable future there will be a huge need for people like you, for people who weld.
Absolutely. So within the span that I spent in the industry, out in the different various shops throughout the valley, like I said, I went in kind of young, so I was about 20, 21, and from that time that I spent in the industry, I could probably give you a handful of people that were relatively close to my age. So we're getting to a point in time in our society that we're having a big gap. We have a lot of these older guys or older individuals that were, doing this for a career, made a living off of it, and they're getting ready to retire. You can only work so much, right?
Right.
And it's a very demanding job, so they're not going to be trying to do this for 40 or 50 years. And more power to those that do. My hat's off to you.
Yeah.
But they're not trying to do that forever. So they're leaving, and we really have nobody to fill those shoes. We have some, but we're trying to, and I'm a big advocate for that, trying to get kids, either straight out of high school or maybe after post-secondary in a vocational or some type of 2-year college, to get them into the industry, as young as possible, just so that they can develop a work ethic, they can develop some type of career, to kind of get their feet wet, get going, and provide for what we need as a society. Streets aren't going to make themselves, buildings aren't going to make themselves. So
yeah, as I was reading on this over the weekend, I was thinking to myself, this is typical, classic example of one of those things that I don't spend the average day thinking about welding But if you start to think about this very car that we're sitting in right now, or like you said, bridges, highways, infrastructure, all kinds of things that are not even possible without somebody welding parts of it together.
For sure.
And then you start to really appreciate what you guys do and everything. I know you've got some people watching in the Valley this morning.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a shout out to everybody in the Valley watching. He's doing great. So Nestor with Triumph Public High School has put up the website, iwilltriumph.org, which is a great website, by the way, if people want to find more information. So you guys got it set and established in the Valley, but the idea is to eventually expand it to markets like San Antonio and other places across the state.
Yeah, so we are already in Laredo. We're hoping that kind of opens up the door. We have a what we call the Sense program that's provided through the American Welding Society. Essentially, it's not hands-on, unfortunately, right? I currently have 9 kids there, but it's the theory or the practicum of welding, right? So if these students ever want to go into the vocational setting or they want to go into a 2-year college, they're going to have some type of knowledge of what welding is. So that we go in through the various processes of like FCAW, which stands for flux core arc welding, GTAW, without getting too technical, but we basically cover all of the welding processes. We learn welding symbols, we learn how to read blueprints, stuff like that. And then with all of that they learn, they get a certification out of it. So not only do they, learn a little bit about the theory of welding, but at the same time, they're getting a certification that's recognized nationally and even globally, I would like to say, through the American Welding Society.
Yeah, and I was reading up on that. AWS, I mean, that's like a legit thing, and as you read up more about it, you realize, again, how you can start young. The program doesn't take too long, right?
No. So typical welding programs, depending on which route you want to take, whether it be vocational or actual 2-year college, the maximum is 2 years, with hands-on training. Vocational settings are all different. Most of them come from either a 6-month program, sometimes 9 months, and they'll even go 6 weeks. Just to kind of get you in there, get your feet wet, get you ready for that welder test. And then boom, you're out to working.
All right. Well, we're talking with Bobby Quintero here, welding instructor with Triumph Public High Schools. He's based out of the Valley in the Sherryland area. We were talking about everything that he's doing over there. Is that where you grew up and where you were born?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in the Sherryland area. My family has pretty deep roots in that area. We've been there since 1964. That I can remember, that I know of, right? That was just information that was passed down.
You haven't been there.
I haven't been there. No, of course not. But I've been there. I grew up and I was born and raised there. And then I'm a graduate from McAllen High School. I moved over there my sophomore year. But nonetheless, once I finished school, I came back to the Sherryland community, and I currently live there. But
how did welding tell me how did that intersect with you?
Yeah, it's funny how that works. So growing up, I had my uncles were really influential in this, and amongst other people, but we grew up around stuff like that, mechanic work, welding,
just hands-on
stuff,
labor, that kind of stuff.
We were a labor-intensive type of family. Most of the majority of my older cousins and my uncles are all labor-intensive jobs. They work in some type of labor field, right? So it kind of just clashed with that. And then once I got into high school, I ended up I was in FFA, which is like the Future Farmers of America.
Yeah.
I was in FFA from 7th grade all the way up till I was a senior.
Did you raise animals and stuff like that?
I raised show pigs.
Yeah, okay.
I raised show pigs.
Sure.
So I did that, and then back when I was in school, it's not so much. Well, it is, but we're getting away from the schools are pulling those type of trades out of FFA to make their own individual departments. But when I was in school, FFA had carpentry, it had welding, it had electrical work, it had home improvement classes, So that's what I did, And so a big shout out to my ag teachers for kind of pushing that on me. And my dad, I forgot to mention this, my dad is been my mentor since I've been in the industry.
Yeah.
He's been in the steel industry for over 40 years.
That's wow. That's crazy.
So big shout out to him. He basically pulled me out and said, "Hey, you're getting in the steel industry." And it's funny how that worked. I was about to be a dad. I'm a father of two. I was about to be a dad and didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was in college at the time. And he basically said, "Well, I know what you're going to do. You're going to go work for me." So I started working with him and got into the steel industry.
Were you cool with that when it happened?
Oh, yeah.
You weren't like, "Oh, hey, come on,
yeah,
Pops."
Yeah,
Like,
well, it's kind of like I was talking to Nestor about it. I was in school for business. I was going to go to get a business major or whatever.
Yeah.
And little did I know, by the time I was 24, I started up my own welding inspection business.
Wow.
So,
okay.
So it kind of worked hand in hand,
Yeah.
in that sense. But yeah, I didn't push back whatsoever.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, well, I guess that's what I'm doing now.
And it worked out.
And it worked out. It worked out. I eventually, started doing things on my own. We were one of the consultants for one of the biggest drilling companies here in the U.S., Helmer Champagne. Mm-hmm. We were consultants for them. We were actually working on oil rigs, fabricating. They were fabricating them in the shops that we worked at, and they would fabricate them from the ground up, and we would do all the inspection on it.
Wow.
So it kind of just stumbled in my lap, to be honest with you. It wasn't one of those things that I planned, like, I'm going to be a welder.
Right.
I had other dreams, and it didn't happen, but it happened in the sense that, I got to work for myself for a while. I did start up my own little business that I do have now, that I do on the weekends every now and then. But yeah, that's pretty much how I came about being in the welding industry. Was just a fear to provide for my family.
Yeah.
And here I am.
And that's fantastic. And so you're a young business owner, and you're getting all these things done. You're following your dad's footsteps and everything. But then the idea that you wanted to teach and share the knowledge with young people and then Triumph. How did that all come into your life?
So working in the oil and gas industry, it has its ups and downs, mm-hmm. right? So you could be working for 4 or 5 years straight, and then from one day to the next, it could be like, "Hey, we don't have any more work. You got to get out of here." Right? So I went through a couple of those, well, actually several of them, several layoffs.
Not a lot of job security.
Yeah, not a lot of job security. And within that time that I would have those times off, I would say, I actually got into teaching through a vocational school.
Uh-huh.
An old friend of mine, a still friend of mine, actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, I'm a teacher over here at this vocational school, and I'm looking for people. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Man, I haven't welded in like 3 or 4 years. I've been doing this, And so he actually brought me in and trained me and taught, like, kind of showed me the ropes on how to be a welding teacher, because it's totally different, from being an actual teacher to being a trades teacher. It's a lot more liability to it.
I can imagine, yeah.
You have kids who are 16, 17, 18 years old messing with hand tools, power tools. Things can get pretty serious pretty quick. And so he basically taught me the ropes, and man, I had a real knack for it. I liked it.
You really liked it.
And it was real natural to me. My first teaching job was at Progreso High School, and I still remember those kids from this day. They were one of the best kids I've ever had.
Yeah.
And they still keep in touch with me and all that good stuff. But they were the ones that really influenced me to be a teacher. Because they took the information that I was giving, and they really ran with it. Mm-hmm. And that's when I really enjoyed, was seeing them, have that light bulb go off.
Sure.
And they enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and here I am.
Yeah. You brought one of your tools of the trade here, and I know this is a welding helmet.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure that I've seen one up close like this in a long time. So I'm just going to show it here for everybody. I mean, you would recognize, I guess, the front, obviously, the protection and everything. But on the inside, there looks like to be some kind of. Is there a solar panel on there?
Yeah, so
what's happening on the? You can people see the buttons. What's happening on the inside?
So this is a automatic welding helmet. So what it does is, as soon as it detects the light or the arc, that is like a sensor, and it turns on automatically. And at the same time, excuse me, it serves as a battery recharger.
So instead of looking for sunlight, it's looking for
the arc.
The arc.
But
Okay.
The sun and the arc are similar in the sense that they both let out UV light.
A lot of light.
So yeah, so
heat.
you can't just stare at it all day.
Sure. Now, okay, and I'm not saying anybody should do this. Could you look at the eclipse through this thing?
You can.
You can.
You can. Yeah, because it has a very it goes through a very large range of shade.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's got like different shades. Some are darker, some are lighter, but you can get to a very, very dark shade on that specific helmet.
I might want to borrow this for a few more hours. No, I saw it and I thought about this. Like, I wonder if you could use this for the eclipse today.
Yeah, you can. You can.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's actually probably better, to be honest with you, because it's covering your whole face.
Seriously, yeah. You don't have to worry about the glasses like sliding off or anything.
Yeah.
Well, it worked out for you that you came to San Antonio because you're going to get a better view of it than I think down in the valley.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, because I think in the valley there was only partial coverage.
Yeah, I think it's coming through like Eagle Pass and then coming this way and everything.
Yeah.
By the way, a public service announcement, because I know you're going to be driving south later on today. Anybody trying to go north right now on I-10?
Yeah.
God bless you, because coming down here, it's an absolute insanity.
Yeah,
mess.
I drove in last night and I didn't have much pushback as far as traffic, but I can just imagine what it's like right now.
Oh my goodness. So, teaching for you, is that a year round? Is it like a traditional school year? It's like semesters and that kind of thing? Yeah,
so our course is set up for me to teach a new batch of kids every semester. So I have a regular teacher schedule, so I teach from August to May. Or June or whatever.
So you get the summer break.
I get the summer
spring break.
I get spring, yes, I get all of that. So that was another reason why I wanted to get into teaching.
It's pretty good.
You get those vacations in there. That schedule is in line with my kiddos too. So we don't have to worry about finding a sitter or whatever the case may be. But usually my mom takes care of him. You know, so she's probably watching.
Gotta love the moms. Gotta love the grandparents and everything. Absolutely. Yeah. So again, just to kind of explain, if you're joining us late here, this is with Triumph Public High Schools, and we're talking to Bobby Quintero, who's a welding instructor out of the Valley. But the San Antonio Triumph campus is literally like behind us here. We've got the church where we were last time. Next door to this is the church where Johnny Cash got married.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
No, it's and I learned that the last time I was here. But if people want to enroll, again, there are remote opportunities and stuff like that. But the idea is to eventually have what you have in the Valley here.
Correct. Yeah. So right now we're through our other districts, which is Laredo, El Paso, Lubbock, Abilene, and San Antonio. Those classes will be taught remotely.
Yeah.
So we have those classes there, but we are trying to expand and try to get into those other districts. We just it takes time. It's not one of those things. So it took me to make this program. It took me I think it was like a full year to get everything in order, and we went live with it in 2021-2022 school year. Yeah. So it takes time. Yeah, we're trying.
It really is remarkable when you think about the need for welders in the years to come. I saw the statistic the other day. We're talking about by 2027, so 3 years from now, the U.S. will need more than 360,000 welding professionals.
Correct. Yeah. So it goes back to I think about what my everyday life back in the shop when I was doing shop work. Man, I like I said, if I can tell you just like about a handful of people that were even remotely close to my age, and I still stay active within the shops, throughout the year, and whenever I have some downtime, and it's still the same. Yeah. You don't really see young kids trying to get into the industry. There's a lot of factors to that, right? But for the most part, we're starting to get to that point where we're gonna need it. It's not so much that we want; we're gonna need people to fill these jobs, and it's kind of scary, to be honest with you. Yeah. Because we get to you think about your your infrastructure, right? Who's gonna make these buildings? Who's gonna be the ones that are actually going to be putting these things together,
AI cannot create the buildings. Exactly. They cannot physically build the buildings.
I mean, they help. They have their place in the world.
They can design the buildings, maybe, but they can't build them.
They can't build them.
They can't weld everything together.
Yeah, they're still going to need people that are going to need to physically put these things together.
Yeah,
so,
shoot. No kidding. Well, we've got some great questions coming in, and one of them is talking about girls, that the number of girls that apply for something like this, or do you see a lot of females in the program?
Yeah, believe it or not, I have a total throughout my 4 campuses, I have a total of, let me try to think, I have 4 or 5. I want to say I have 6 girls in my program of 40.
Wow.
So we have a cap at each campus because I travel. We have a total of 10 students per campus.
Okay.
So we have, out of those 40 kids that I have, or the 37 kids that I service, we have those 6 females that are in our courses. And I'm gonna tell you this, from my experience, girls tend to pick it up, or females I should say, they tend to pick it up faster than the boys do. I don't know what it is. Don't try to understand it. It's the fact,
Good job, ladies.
And they tend to pick it up faster than the guys, and it is what it is. I don't know what to say about it, but yeah, we do promote, for females to get involved with the industry. AWS has a whole segment on their website about how we should push for a diverse workplace.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's a male-dominated field, but there's by all means, it doesn't mean a female can't go and do what they're doing, what guys are doing. But I mean, it's all about preference, what you want to do, and whenever, and it's hot in the valley. This, right?
Yeah.
It's hot in the valley. So when in our fall semester, we start in August. And those are like the dog days.
Really
of summer.
hot, yeah.
So, and a big shout out to those students that took the class with me last semester. It got hot, and they were out there.
Last summer was brutal.
They were out there, working just like everybody else was, and did not complain whatsoever. So, kudos to them. Yeah.
Super cool. So let's talk about the process. If somebody's watching this, or a parent's watching this, and they think, hey, this might be good for my son, my daughter, the process to get involved and potentially sign up with you guys and make it happen, what do they need to do?
Well, first, be enrolled in the school, and I believe there's a website that you can enroll into the school in. But my class, unfortunately, right now is just for seniors.
Okay.
Seniors are graduating juniors, just because of the space that I have.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't service all of those kids at the same time. Eventually, we want to get to that point.
Yeah.
But it's either for juniors or seniors, graduating juniors or seniors, and there is a little bit of like a prereq to it. They have to have like certain tests taken care of and stuff like that. But nonetheless, if they stay with us and they're able to stay through their junior and senior year, the first thing that most kids want to do is my class. We have waiting lists at each campus trying to get into my class.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get those kids serviced, but I mean it's just taking us a little bit of time. But we would like to not have a waiting list anymore, so we can have big enough class to service all those kids.
Good problem to have, though.
Exactly.
But at least like the student-teacher ratio is pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I mean, you don't have massive giant classes.
Yeah, and I've been in those big classes. Through the vocational schools. We would go out and service schools that didn't have a welding course or welding department. And sometimes I would have classes from 15 to 20 students, and it was just me, working with those kids. But it's manageable, but you need help.
Yeah. Another question here: what are the funding constraints for the program?
Really, it's just the space. We need funding to expand our shops. So our shops are set up in a container.
Okay.
Like a Connex.
Sure.
We actually fabricated, or I didn't fabricate, but somebody fabricated a welding booth in each container.
Okay.
We have 5 welding booths in each container, and we see a total of 10 kids, five kids at a time, throughout the day, in the morning and the afternoon. And more than anything, we just need space, and then of course with that space we need more equipment and stuff like that, so that we can get bigger classes and we can kind of punch into that deficit that you were mentioning about putting kids to work and trying to fill that deficit that we're going to be seeing.
Well, there are so many young people here in our community, we talk about this a lot, that 4-year college just may not be for them for whatever reason, and that's perfectly okay, but they're going to go into the trades and they're looking for something to turn things around for their family or to be able to generate some good income, and I feel like what you guys are doing checks a lot of those boxes.
For sure. And I'm glad you brought that up because In our Brownsville campus, we have actually 2 kids that are actually out in the field right now working. Wow. At the Port of Brownsville. Big shout out to them. They were one of my kids that were, you know, my top students.
Yeah.
And they really hit the grindstone when they were with me. You know, they were in and out of the shop. They were, you know, always asking me questions. You know, even I think after they graduated, they would reach out to me, hey sir, why is this happening? Like, well, you know, they would just go into depth about what is it, and I would like, hey, like this so and so, you know, XYZ.
Right.
And so I would explain to them what the problem was or whatever the case may be. But kudos to them, man, because they're roughly, if it was a year ago, so they're probably 18, 19 years old right now, and they're making anywhere from $8,000 to $1,000 a week.
It's crazy because I live, you know, I'm on the northwest side of town, and you probably know about the tech stock construction right now, these 5-10 year projects. Yeah. And I drive by it many times every day, and I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's a pain sometimes, but I do think about those workers that are way up top, and you can see the sparks flying off of the rebar or whatever and everything. And I'm not going to lie, I don't always give a lot of thought to that, and I certainly do now.
Yeah, for sure.
When you think about what they're doing and just how critical their work is.
For sure.
For a highway that we'll take for granted driving on every day. But it just goes to show you the need. And like I said again, by 2027, 360,000 welding professionals. So that'll be thousands of more students for you to teach.
For sure. Hopefully.
Yeah, so your job security is safe and everything.
Hopefully.
You talked about websites earlier, triumphpublicschools.org, and then there's another one, iwilltriumph.org. If you just get the information. Pass along the information to a young person or someone who you think might be a good candidate. And I know efforts are underway as we speak to get these kinds of things that he has in the Valley here in San Antonio, because we're literally, like I said, right off of Fredericksburg Road here, and this is the new Triumph campus that's taking shape, and it's fantastic stuff to see. So, we leave anything out?
Nah, not that I can think of.
All right, man.
Just other than just you know, Triumph has been really. I just want to kind of, you know,
absolutely
go off the record.
Go ahead. No,
Triumph has been really, really good to me. Me and my family. They really took a chance on me when they really didn't have to, and I have to give kudos to them and thankful and very blessed and grateful for the opportunity to have done something like this. Again, I did create this program, so this program that you see and you know the successes that we have has all been due to them allowing me to do what I do, you know, and I'm super grateful for the opportunity. I just want to give a really, really, really good thanks to you know all my ex-coworkers at the business office in Miss Johnson, and she, you know, they
superintendent,
Superintendent Miss Johnson. She didn't have to take a chance on me, and she did. Yeah. And I'm just really, really thankful and grateful for the opportunity to continue doing this and grow it as best as I can, and you know, make it the best that I can make it.
It really is cool to see what these charter schools have done, and just learning about what Triumph Public High Schools is all about, and that parents know there are options for their kids, that if where they are right now is not a great fit, that maybe it's a Triumph or somewhere else. So the last question I have, what's the coolest thing you've ever welded, or something that piece of infrastructure or something that is meaningful to you?
Yeah, there's quite a bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
I didn't do welding on it, but I was a consultant in inspection in the inspection department for the Miami Dolphins football stadium.
Oh wow! Okay.
The flat roof they put on it.
Hard Rock, the Hard Rock Cafe. Yeah.
I worked on the inspection, part of the inspection of that specific structure. The Las Vegas Raiders Stadium.
Allegiant. They just had the Super Bowl.
I did the scoreboard. I did on the components.
No way.
Yeah. And then the Bird Ogden Arena, which is pretty big back home.
Yes.
I did pretty much all the inspection on that.
So Nestor's saying SpaceX. You guys do anything with that down there?
I did a job with SpaceX.
Okay, I figured.
I did SpaceX, but before SpaceX was SpaceX.
Yeah.
So when I went and did work for them, it was just a patch of dirt. There was no buildings, nothing like that. They were still working on the first rocket and making the offices at the time. But that was back in, man, I want to say it was like 2016, something like that. It's been a while.
That's a whole other conversation about just what Elon Musk is doing down there in South, you know, in the valley, and all the opportunities that could open up for you and your kids.
For sure, yeah. He's really innovating. I guess you could say the demand and the industry needs by way of, like, I know he made donations to several other ISDs, and unfortunately we didn't get any of that. But
there's time.
Yeah, there's time.
All right,
there's
Elon,
time.
if you see this, if you're looking at this,
we didn't get any of that because we didn't have a welding program, but now we do.
All right. Yes, Elon, hook a brother up here.
Yeah. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, he's really making a push for people to have those demands met in that sense of like where we lack as far as
and the rockets aren't going to build themselves.
Exactly.
Well, listen, this has been very educational. Again, I just have a greater appreciation for what you do now and your counterparts who are welding things as we speak here in San Antonio and elsewhere and everything. And here's hoping that maybe this program will shed a little more light on that and maybe help you in your efforts to get more great welders and doing their thing. So, pleasure to meet you, man.
Pleasure to meet you. And also, I got something for you.
Oh, yes, sir.
So they wanted me to hand this over for you, having me on as a guest as
well.
Heck yeah. And I really appreciate the time to kind of have a little platform to talk about my program, and I appreciate everything that you've done. And if there's anything that you ever need, you know where you can
listen. Triumph Public High Schools has been very supportive of me, and that means a lot to me. Now people can see me coming from half a mile away now with this hat on. But it really is fascinating to learn about what's happening. And these kinds of things that are happening, just impacting young people, and like I said earlier, just putting them in a better position to help their families and contribute. And
for sure.
So it's great to see you, man.
For sure.
Thanks for keep up the great work.
Thank you.
All right, again, triumphpublicschools.org or iwilltriumph.org are the websites if you'd like to find out more. And there is another episode of Pickup Lines presented by Gamez Law Firm. I had Integrity Roofing and Siding. We'll be back again very soon because we got to go get ready to watch this eclipse.
Yeah.
And you got your welding mask, man. That's pretty cool. We'll be back again very soon. Be safe out there with the eclipse today, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.